So this video is going to cover the basics of spelling chords, specifically triads. Triads are three-note chords and are the basis for Western harmony. So first off, how do you spell triads? The most common way of spelling triads is spelling them using the first, third, and fifth scale degrees of a major or minor scale. In fact, from any scale. So in this case, I stacked the first, which we also call the root of the chord, the third, and the fifth. Some common features of the major triad, we'll use the C major triad to illustrate this, are the intervals in between the root and the third and the fifth. In a major triad, again this is a C major triad, the interval between the root and the third is a major third. And then the interval between the third and the fifth is a minor third. In addition, this interval here between the root and the fifth is a perfect fifth. This is in contrast to the minor triad. I'm going to write a parallel minor triad over here on the right. Now base this off of the C minor scale. The first, third, and fifth scale degrees of a minor scale. In this C minor, you have to use E flat. This first interval is going to be a minor third between the root and the third, and then the interval between the third and the fifth is a major third. It's important to know the similarities and the differences between these two chords. They're going to sound different, they're written differently, but there's also some similarities, like, for example, the distance between the root and the fifth between both chords will be a perfect fifth. Now you can use this intervallic relationship and spell any triad on any given tone on the staff as well as on the keyboard or your instrument. So the first one is an F. We're going to spell an F major triad. When you spell a triad, notice that they're always stacked in thirds. This is a great way to look at what we call root position, where the root of the chord is on the bottom. The root of the chord is the bass tone. And we stack them as thirds. So this one, in case this is an F, and we want F major, there it is right there. We have a major third between the root and the third, and a minor third between the third and the fifth scale degrees. How about C sharp major? First off, stack thirds. C sharp, we need major thirds, we need E sharp, and G sharp. That gives us a C sharp major triad. A major triad, after a while you get to visualize and understand how many sharps and flats are in key signatures, and based on scales we know that this needs to be C sharp for an A major triad. D major triad, D, E, F sharp. Again, think of the major third relationship between the root and the third. Now let's spell some minor triads. So here we have a G minor triad. Stack thirds. We don't have to worry about the fifth on this because it automatically is a perfect fifth, but we want a minor third between the root and the third, so we put a flat sign there. Also think of the G minor scale, G, A, B flat. C minor, I mean E flat. How about F minor? F, A, C, that's a major triad, lower the third, that gives us A flat, that's an F minor. How about B flat minor? B flat, we need a minor third here, which means we need to flat the D. By doing that, that gives us a major third between the D flat and F. So those are some minor triads. Now I'd like to explore some of the less common triads. First off is a diminished triad. With a diminished triad, usually gives us a diminished fifth between the root and the fifth scale degree. In this case, this interval. This needs to be a diminished fifth. Since we want it to be a C diminished triad, we can't alter the C, we alter the G. So we flat the G. Now, interesting enough as it is, we need certain intervals in between the root and the third and the fifth. Edit that. So really what a diminished triad is a minor triad with a lowered fifth. Be looking at these intervals, minor third between C and E flat, minor third between E flat and G flat. So unlike a major or minor a major or minor triad, the diminished triad is essentially two minor thirds stacked on top of each other. So for example, let's try an F diminished. A minor third above F, A flat. A minor third above A flat, C flat. That gives us that diminished fifth, root and fifth, F diminished triad. Let's spell a few more. So now we're going to explore the augmented triad. What's interesting enough about the augmented triad, similar to the diminished triad had a diminished fifth between the root and fifth. The augmented triad is going to have an augmented fifth between the root and the fifth. So if we start with our C triad, essentially an augmented triad is going to be a major triad with a raised fifth. So we need a raised fifth. That gives us the augmented fifth between the C and the G, between the root and the fifth, C and G sharp. However, this also makes a certain interval relationship similar to the diminished triad, where a diminished triad has stacked minor thirds. The augmented triad is going to have stacked major thirds. C to E, major third, E to G sharp, major third. So if we spell, I should label that, and we label it with the root and then a plus sign. You could write AUG period as an abbreviation. Either one is fine. For shorthand, I like to use the plus sign. So for our F augmented triad, write the triad first, stacked thirds, and you want augmented, so you want to have major third between each of the intervals. So F to A, major third. A to C needs to be a major third, so we raise that to C sharp. So here is an example of what you might find on a homework assignment where you have to identify the triads. They are stacked in thirds, so it's very easy to identify where the root is. So that's the first thing you should do, is identify the root. The first one is going to be an F triad. Then look for those intervallic relationships. The first one is a minor third, and then the second one is a major third. Base that off of also the F minor scale, F minor triad. How about the second one? B, D sharp, F double sharp. Here's a hint. Anytime you see a double sharp or a double flat, you might wonder if it's a major or minor. It could be one of the less common, like a diminished or an augmented. In this case, this is a B augmented triad. You have a major third here between B and D sharp, and then D sharp to F double sharp, another major third. Gives us the augmented triad. A flat, E double flat in this triad. You have a minor third here between A flat and C flat. C flat to E double flat is another minor third. That's going to be an A flat diminished. And the last one, A, C sharp, major third, C sharp to E, minor third, perfect fifth. That means A major.